Hi, this is Theo from PocketBlocks.com. Today I'm going to review this new stylus called the Adonit Pixel. This is a Bluetooth stylus that is made for iOS devices such as the iPad, the iPhone. Now, this stylus has pressure sensitivity, so today I'm going to review this stylus from the perspective of someone who uses this to draw. Adonit is the name of the company. They make a lot of digital styluses, and Adonit Pixel, this particular stylus, is the latest one from them that features pressure sensitivity. Now, the earlier model for this is actually the Adonit Jot Touch with PixelPoint, and the earlier model for PixelPoint is actually just called Jot Touch. So let's take a look at some of the differences between the current model and the previous model. Now, the previous model is a bit shorter, and if you look at the diameter, it's a bit wider. The tip is also a bit bigger. The previous model uses a 3.1 mm tip versus the new one, which is 1.9 mm. So the new design is more streamlined. Now, in terms of the comfort when I'm using it for drawing, I think it's slightly more comfortable because this design is closer to normal pens like ballpoint pens or fountain pens. Now, this older model is slightly wider but still rather comfortable to use. And because they are still selling the older model, and with the new model out, sometimes you can get good discounts on the older model if you don't mind the physical differences. Build quality for the stylus is quite good. In fact, I think this is quite excellent. It's very hard, very tough, and I'm very sure that it is very durable. Now, you can get this stylus in two different colors. One is black and one is this gold-like brownish color. I think this one looks quite nice. One thing I do not like about the design is the two buttons here. They are flush, I think, too close to the side of the body, so it's a bit difficult to detect the buttons as I move around them. Perhaps it might have been better if they were to protrude the buttons out a bit like those Wacom styluses. Now, just below the two buttons is this little slit here. This is the battery light indicator. If it shows you a red light, it means that it's time to charge the stylus. Battery life for this stylus is actually quite good. I've only charged it once and I've used it for maybe a week or so, and I haven't seen the need to charge it. So battery life is quite good, but this is a new stylus, so the battery is going to deteriorate as you use it, as you charge more often. That is the same for all stylus, by the way. And to charge this stylus, Adonit has provided a USB charger. So you need to plug this USB charger into your USB port and then put your stylus like this. So if your laptop has a horizontal USB port, it's going to look something like this when it's charging. If your USB port is vertical, then it's going to look something like this when it's charging. Be careful not to lose this charger because this is very small. I have lost this once before for a different model, and it was actually hidden in some corner of my bag and I wasn't able to find it, and I bought a replacement charger for I cannot remember how much, and then a few days later I found a charger in my bag. So be careful, do not lose this charger. This is the 1.9 mm tip of Adonit Pixel. By the way, the company also makes other styluses with very small tips as well. For example, this is the Adonit Jot Dash. You can see that the tip sizes, they are quite similar. And there is another stylus called the Adonit Jot Script 2. It's also quite similar in size. And let me show you the Apple Pencil just for comparison. Now, the tip of the Apple Pencil and the tip of Adonit Pixel, I would say they are quite similar. The main difference probably would be the taper of the Apple Pencil, which is more gradual, and this is a bit, I would say, steeper. And this is the earlier model, the PixelPoint. You can see the difference is actually not too significant, 3.1 mm tip versus 1.9 mm tip. Now, I want to point out the wobbling effect here. It is still there. So with the earlier model, only the tip wobbles, Now with the new model, you can see that this whole front part is wobbling. Now you can actually detach this front part. Let me do that to show you. So this is actually a much bigger tip with a smaller tip at the top. Let me just put it back. There's no mention of replacement tip from Adonit yet, but if you do wear off the tip, I'm pretty sure you can contact them for a replacement tip to buy them. So even though both the tips still wobble, it's really not too different from ballpoint pens, where some of their ballpoint pens, their tips wobble as well. So the feeling of drawing with the new Stylus compared to ballpoint pens where their tip wobbles is actually very similar. So I would say that there's not much difference. It's not really a downside to the wobbling tip. The other thing I want to talk about is the texture of the tip. The new Stylus has a textured tip. You can see the matte surface. Now compared to the older tip, this is a glossy surface. Both of these tips, they are hard tips. However, with the textured surface, when you're drawing on glass, there is more friction, so there is more control. And this is a very nice feature. I'm using the iPad Pro today for this demonstration. By the way, the Adonit Pixel is for people who are not using the iPad Pro, who are using earlier iPads, iPad minis. And because if you have the iPad Pro, you should just go get the Apple Pencil. But if you're not using the iPad Pro, then the Adonit Pixel is the next best option. Now, Apple Pencil costs US $100 at retail. This costs US $80 at retail, and both Stylus are quite expensive. So let's see how well it actually performs. Now, at the time of this review, it only supports several apps. So right now, it doesn't support Procreate, but the company says that they are going to support Procreate. They are going to support Adobe drawing programs in the future, but not right now. Also, some of the apps are not going to support Adonit. For example, the Wacom Bamboo Paper app that is made by Wacom is definitely not going to support Adonit Stylus because they have their own Stylus to sell. And this app here, Paper, that is made by this company called 53, they are also not going to support Adonit because they have their own Stylus. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using this app called Medibank Paint because this app supports this Stylus. Alright. This is the pressure settings for Medibank Paint. Now you can turn on or off the pressure. Of course, I want to turn it on. I also want to turn on the palm rejection. So here you can see some of the settings that you can change. Now before you use the Stylus, you have to power it on. So you just have to press this button here, this lower button. And there should be a green light that flashes. I'm not sure why there is no green light here. Perhaps I already turned it on. Oh, okay. So you can see the green light. Now it syncs with the app, and now it shows here, the name here is Adonit Pixel. You can choose the writing style. This is basically your hand position. So just choose one that fits your hand posture. You can also set the different buttons on the Stylus to different functions of the software. I'm just going to leave it at default. I'm going to turn on palm rejection. So I'm just going to pick a brush first. Just pick a simple brush to show you how well the pressure sensitivity works. Let me start by drawing some very thin lines where I use the least amount of pressure. This Stylus is very sensitive. I just apply the least amount of pressure that I can, and I am able to get these thin lines. So if you apply more pressure, then you can get thicker lines like this. Notice that there is some lag. But usually when I'm drawing things, the lag doesn't affect me seriously because there is lag, but it's not the irritating type of lag. I hope you know what I mean. Let me clear this space and show you the transition between thin and thick. So the transition between thin and thick is very smooth as well. By the way, there is no way to adjust the pressure curve, so you just have to make do with what you have. But by default, the pressure curve is quite good. It's quite, how should I say, it's quite predictive, as in the sense that the lines come out the way I want them to be, so that is a good thing. Accuracy for this stylus is quite good. However, it really depends on the hand posture that you choose. Many drawing software allows you to choose hand posture. Now when you choose that, the cursor will align itself to the point to make some adjustments so that you can draw accurately. So a person who is left-handed versus a person who is right-handed, the cursor placement is going to be different, of course. But generally speaking, the accuracy is quite good. The cursor is almost always very close to the pen tip. Now I want to talk about palm rejection. Unfortunately, the implementation for palm rejection is not very good. And this is a problem that has affected earlier models of Adonit Jot Touch as well. So this is not too surprising, but it is a shame that they did not improve on the palm rejection. Another thing to note is palm rejection also depends on the software implementation. So if the software can handle palm rejection well, then you get very good palm rejection. For example, with Mediabank Paint Pro, you can actually turn on strict palm rejection. Let me see here. So here there is a setting for you to switch on palm rejection. And now I can actually just draw here, and there's no stray marks that's caused by my palm. However, if I actually turn palm rejection off and draw, sometimes the screen may actually move because now it detects my pen stylus and also my palm. I'm not sure if it's going to happen any soon. Oh, so did you see that little jerk there? That's what's going to happen. And sometimes the screen may move, the canvas may move, or sometimes it may just create stray marks. So palm rejection is a bit iffy at times. So you can see here, even though I'm pressing down hard, I wasn't able to get any strokes because the screen is detecting my palm and not the stylus. Alright. So to get flawless palm rejection for this particular software, I have to switch on palm rejection. But this stops me from zooming in. So now I have to press this little hand icon here that allows me to zoom, and press the hand icon again to go back to palm rejection mode. Some of you might be wondering whether or not this stylus is good for taking notes. I'm actually not too sure. Because I don't take notes often. Now, this software, as you can see just now while I was writing, there was almost no lag. So whether or not there's going to be lag really depends on the software implementation as well. So for this case here, the lines come out almost instantaneously. And also there was some stray dots while I was writing earlier on. See this little stray dot here? Because this app doesn't have palm rejection. This app, by the way, is Wacom Bamboo Paper. So if I do take notes, this is the app that I like to use because, well, first of all, there is no lag when it comes to taking notes. The lines come out almost instantly. I'm not going to demonstrate note-taking with other applications because I really do not take a lot of notes, and also how well the stylus work with note-taking apps really depends on the software implementation. So it's not possible for me to test out every one of those apps. For note-taking seriously, there's no need to get Adonit Pixel because the highlight of this stylus is the pressure sensitivity feature. You probably do not need pressure sensitivity to take notes, so if you buy stylus without that feature, it's going to be cheaper as well. So is the new Adonit Pixel an improvement over the older Adonit Jot Touch with PixelPoint? I would say yes in some areas, especially the textured tip, which is really very nice. It gives you the extra friction, which provides extra control when you're drawing on glass surfaces. I also like the streamlined body, very nice too. But in terms of drawing functionality, these two stylus A are actually quite similar. The main difference for me will be the textured tip. So if you want to save some money, perhaps you can get the older PixelPoint. If you want the new stuff, then Adonit Pixel. I think that's all for my review today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below. I will also post a link to my text review in case there are any updates, then I can update the text review. You can also find some purchase links there as well to where you can buy the stylus. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so for more art product reviews, sketching tips and techniques. Bye!